Welcome to Season 4 Tales from the Trenches Tuesdays. Today, it is my honor to have Mario Hernandez with me.
Here's a story of a fundraiser who was launching his very own web show. Each episode is very short due to edits, so it can really flow. Here's a story of a podcast guest star who was busy raising money of their own. They were each great in their own way, fundraising in his own. Till the one day when Jack asked a guest to join him, and they knew it was much more than a jest, that these guests must somehow form a resource. That's the way they all became the podcast guests. The podcast guests. The podcast guests. That's the way they became the podcast guests.
Mario is a two-time exited founder, a proud father and husband, now helping nonprofits fundraise on LinkedIn and building an AI venture for the nonprofit sector. So welcome, Mario. In your bio, you talk about building an AI venture, right? And so that's the buzzword. Everyone is AI, and there's so many differences as to what AI is, right? Spell check as you type is a kind of AI. There's AI everywhere, and everyone it's the holy grail, is what people are thinking, and I don't believe it to be the holy grail. It's early days of AI. Every day there's dozens, if not hundreds or thousands of companies launching. We're the new AI, and we're able to do A, B, and C. So tell me how AI, what is it that AI is doing, and how AI can fit into this whole platform that you're looking at.
No, it's very true, Jack. And to be honest, we have to be careful of the myths. So it's not the magical solution, right? But it definitely, in my opinion, is going to become one of the greatest assets for the nonprofit sector. And the reason I say that is, as you well know, 95% of the sector is operating at less than $1 million. So there's like these big players that have the big names, a lot of budgets, and they have the operational capabilities, the systems, they can hire, they can compensate, and so forth. So our mentality was that after this whole time of doing a lot of research is how can we uplift the entire sector? And that's where AI is going to become such a major component, because it's going to be able to actually provide those systems, the operational enhancements that we really require in nonprofit organizations that are smaller, more nimble, agile, but they need to stop drowning in admin work. And so, if we can actually reduce that level of manual tasks where they're just wanting to focus more on the impact on the people, the causes that they serve, AI comes into play. So, we started to understand one, the sector is also getting drowned in a lot of software that is built by those that have never been involved in the sector, which can be a headache. We've seen it from the nonprofits that we work with, ChatGPT, et cetera. You have to be utilizing it right now because there hasn't been a better solution to just jump to at the moment. But it's not the best type of solutions either, because the outputs aren't being fed from the philanthropic data points that it requires to be able to manage. And the same thing happens when they're looking at these grant applications or grant writing AIs and so forth. It really doesn't matter if you can write a grant now, let's say in minutes instead of months, if you're already set up to fail because there wasn't an alignment between what the grant is actually providing. So we're cutting through all of that with Gively. That's why we decided to build it out from within the sector for the sector and make sure that it's not a shiny object, not just another tool, but it'll actually help these headaches and help these organizations operate a lot better. But it will never say that it's like the solution that it will just solve all your problems, but it will definitely become an essential tool to help you grow and maintain that stability as well.
Well, that's great to hear. I've been involved in fundraising for over 30 years, and a lot of these smaller organizations always love grants, right? Because I think somewhere is out there, and most of the granting organizations have a mandate to give away money. So they're like, hey, if someone's giving away money, I should just make sure that I align. And so far too often they try to, ram that square peg into a round hole. We kind of fit, if you look at it on the side, and, we're on the periphery, and we'll put all of our efforts into it because they don't want to say, you know what, that's not what we do. Because you don't ever want to say no to money, especially if you're a small, struggling nonprofit where a $10,000 grant or a $50,000 grant is the difference in between, having a meal and not having a meal. So talk to me a little bit about, how these smaller organizations, which kind of tend to jump at things that are shiny because they're looking for that holy grail, because they can't afford to have either the proper staff or the proper resources. So tell me how that push and pull works.
No, that's exactly right. That's why we were we were discussing that with like hundreds of organizations and those pain points that you just mentioned, and a lot of them would tell us, no, we were spending 3 months to ultimately understand that we were never really set up for that grant. There was just no alignment. So with Gively anyway, the way that we're building it out is understanding that that's really the greatest pain point. It definitely has to help you write the grants, but more so is that the AI should be there to understand what grants are available for you. So let it first ask the questions. What is the revenue size? How many employees? What cause? Where are you based? Geography and so forth. Train the AI to have such a capability in its own brain and its own framework that all of a sudden it'll actually tell you, well, these are the grants that are truly available for your organization. So now you're not going through the process of wasting months, not wasting the impact that you're trying to serve. Let it actually do all that work. And now you apply for those that you actually have an opportunity or a chance to submit your form and obtain that application or obtain that grant itself. And that's where we're really placing in the focus because we want it to become your co-pilot. So you all of a sudden have that AI co-pilot itself to help you through the process, make you feel better, not be stressed that you involved all those hours of work, all these expectations that don't pan out. That is absolutely disheartening. It's just heartbreaking, kills your momentum. So let's make sure that we fix that pain and bring a solution to just again help these smaller organizations that you well mentioned depend on this and they depend on those effectiveness as well. So yeah, we're very much centered upon that on that specific solution.
Very interesting. So about 20 years ago, I was with an organization that used I think it was like an online database, for lack of a better phrase, right? So you were a charity and you had programs and you'd punch in keywords and your geography, and it would spit out all of the granting organizations and how big the grants were that kind of fit that criteria, right? You start with, I don't know, let's say a million foundations and granting opportunities, and you whittle it down. Um, I found a couple things. Number one, their data was 2, 3 years out of date, because they can only upload as they get it. So AI is great in the fact that it's always learning, right? It's not waiting for someone to manually input all of this data. But one of the biggest problems I saw, so, I did my little query and it comes up with, let's say, 25 people that are going to fund a camp for kids. So you look at it and you see, who do I know on the board and this and that. So many of them don't accept um, unsolicited letters of inquiry, right? So you can't even get to that point where you're going to put in a really amazing proposal because you've done your research, right? This aligns. We're singing. But so many foundations and charities are shut down and they aren't open to unsolicited requests. So how do you deal with that, and how does AI deal with that?
So that's where exactly what you mentioned, like the data points, it has to be able to capture the right amount of platforms that can provide you those level of insights. And that's why we're so focused on actually building one out ourselves. Because the ones that are currently out there are just being fed so much information from so many different industries that is just not going to be able to provide you what you just mentioned, that level of detail and information. So we need to train that brain right from the beginning to hold only the relevant information that's really relevant for you and your organization. Once you do, then you know exactly, or the AI will know exactly who to reach out to or who not to, what doors are actually open. And it even works kind of the same way even on LinkedIn, for example. Like there are open profiles and there are closed profiles. And if you don't want to use an in-mail, you can actually go to those open profiles. It's there for you to understand. But a lot of people don't know about that. The information really isn't out there. They're not understanding it. They waste the in-mails and then all of a sudden it's wasted opportunities. Or they're sending messages to these, let's say, not fake profiles, but they're just dormants. And so ultimately, you're wasting your efforts sending so many messages to profiles that were never active in the first place. There are ways for you to understand what profiles are actually posting on LinkedIn, what are active, and so forth, to make sure that you're actually getting that message opened up in the right place. So AI has to work the same way as that. It has to know exactly who to reach out to that is actually open to that solicitation. So you're maximizing again your efforts.
Wow, great point. So I'm fairly active on LinkedIn. I do my podcast, so those go out on Tuesdays, and I tend to do some sort of a blog on Fridays, and I take the summer off. And I love the summer because it's such pressure to put stuff out there. That to constantly be creating content that's interesting and that would be of interest to people and timely, right? I'm not going to talk about the stuff that happened 30 years ago in the way fundraising works, 'cause it's a different world today. So it's almost, you have to set aside a certain amount of your day, and I don't know about you, but my days are getting longer and longer and longer. With technology, I was hoping they were gonna become shorter, but they're actually longer because you're constantly having to create content, and you can tell anyone can tell the AI content stuff, right? Like, it hasn't got to the point where it can create content like a normal person. So I'll be very upfront. I use AI for a basic outline, and then I go in and change it, right? But the people who kind of use it as, hey, this is now written in stone and I'm going to copy paste and I'm done. You can tell, and it looks they've put no effort into it. So it's the same as not posting, if not a negative, right? I'm like, oh, this guy isn't even serious about it. So tell me how you try to juggle creating stuff and being on LinkedIn with actually doing your job.
So that is a fantastic point. I'm glad that you brought it up because I'm a big proponent of that, of what you just mentioned. One, if you're writing, for example, even like in the comments section, AI generated written comments kills your reputation. It's kind of like the same thing as if you're just asking for a donation on the pitch slot. It just kills your reputation. Nobody wants to deal with you anymore because you're not putting in a comment, you're not providing value to the community. It's just copy paste. It's absolutely terrible. And in terms of the content, it works the same way. Now, what we do, and because we understand, as you well mentioned, it can be overwhelming, it can be time consuming. We don't want that whatsoever. You've got very important things to do. However, you still need to promote and provide that content on a network. So utilize AI, and we build it out in such a way as like we actually have like a prompt that allows you to understand what your organization is, and then let it actually provide you with a variety of different tones and formats saying, okay, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm posting 3 times a week. And I want it to actually give me a tone of inspiration, a team win, this or that, a challenging, let's say, debate, but then use it and tell the AI, my organization does this. This is the people that I serve in this location. Help me brainstorm 4 weeks worth of content, 90 days worth of content where I post 3 times a week with these different types of formats. Well, we already have that filled out. Now you let it run. And basically, you have all these ideas, all the brainstorming. So you're not waking up every single day saying, oh, what do I post today? I'm so tired, I'm overwhelmed, and so forth. Now, utilize that to actually schedule out a time in your day, 30 minutes, 1 hour, and say, these are going to be my posts for the next month. And you just actually start writing the post and so forth, utilizing the brainstorming that you obtain in your own voice, in your own tone, make your spelling mistakes, whatever it is, there's no problem, but it's very human first. And then you schedule it out because LinkedIn, I honestly treat it, and I've been discussing this, you have to treat it like any other component in your business, accounting, marketing. If it's moving the needle forward how it should be for your organization in terms of visibility, partnerships, and fundraising, then it requires attention. Anything like anything else in life, requires work and effort. So for that content piece, use the AI to brainstorm, but still put it in your own voice when you actually write it out onto LinkedIn itself or any other social media platform for that matter. But never let AI write it for you because then again,
Right.
just destroys your credibility.
So it's interesting. So today we're taping on a Friday. So today I posted, which I usually don't do in the summer, but it was an interesting post. But I came up with this idea, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago. I was in the car and it just kind of hit me. And when I go through it and I look at it, I think this was like version 17 or 18. Like I went through it 17 or 18 times to get it to the level that I wanted it to be on LinkedIn, right? So it's a reflection of me. So I didn't want it to be riddled with typos. Every now and then one gets through and I'm mortified. But it's a lot of iterations. And so, planning stuff out, well, that's great to plan out. But if I were to plan it out and then do 17 iterations times 3 times a week, times, 4 weeks a month, times 3 months, that's a whack of time that I don't have. Um, and conversely, if something comes up, uh, sometimes it's really good to have President Trump around because you get, some great little tidbits. The comedians are always finding material, and I kind of use the same concept, right? There's always material out there, but it's timely. So if I spoke about, the 2008 recession now, it makes no sense. Right. So you kind of have to be really, really timely in how you think about things. So talk to me a little bit about that whole process of being the perfectionist and all those edits.
So you know, I guess the startup founder in me is always like looking for perfection. I was doing that in the very first startup. Was like always trying to perfect the model, perfect the product, and so forth. But while I was looking for that perfection as well, the competition was getting much more ahead, and that really struck me very partially because I lost 6 to 7 months, a lot of money, a lot of market share because they were just getting ahead on having, let's say, a mediocre product that was just getting more distributed because I was still trying to perfect. And so I kind of consider it the same way now. And I always told myself, now I'm just not even like build in public, make the mistakes. It's fine. Same thing should be with the nonprofits. You don't have to look polished. You don't have to look perfect. Modify and adjust, put in your tones, put in your formats. You can be like, for example, scheduling, fantastic. But every once in a while as well, if you wake up and you're feeling passionate, you saw something in the news, saw something that's relevant, put it out there. And sometimes like my post, you're going to hear a lot from like these gurus that it has to look perfect and its line and its structure, the hook, all these different components. Sometimes just get out there, put in what you're actually looking to say, and you're going to find that it just really resonates a lot more because you're hitting those heartstrings. People are realizing the passion and so forth. So try to iterate as you go, but try to, I guess, refrain so much from the perfectionist side and just put yourself out there as well. I think it's extremely important to do so and understand that it's not ever about going viral, right? It's like, listen, you and I are having this discussion because we connected on LinkedIn. We've resonated with each other's messaging. We're like, all right, this is a person that I want to actually get to know a little bit better. I want to be involved and so forth. So that moves the needle a lot more than actually having a post of, let's say, 1 million impressions of an audience that really doesn't care about your mission, about your cause. I rather 50 reactions, 20 reactions, but those reactions come from people that actually really resonate with what you're mentioning, with what you're actually saying. So just get out there and be it's a time to be human, right? In this era of AI, it's like the best time is to show your flaws and be human and be out there. And I think it'll be the best thing that can happen to yourself and your organization.
Mario, this has been such an eye opener for me. I had a whole list of questions and I think I hit one, maybe two of them. Just because I think it's so interesting, and we went on, kind of our own little tangent there. So, thank you. If folks wanted to connect with you, assuming LinkedIn is probably the best way of doing it, right?
Absolutely. And thank you so much, Jack. I honestly enjoy this conversation. Happy to have you on the LinkedIn Live as well. And whenever we can do this again, absolutely love it. But yes, you can find me, incredibly enough, on LinkedIn, Mario Hernandez, Impact Circle. You'll find me there. You can also find us through our website, www.impactcircle.network. And there you can even like book a call with us directly. We do if you just join us or follow us on LinkedIn, we provide plenty of free resources. Like, and I'm saying this on a weekly basis. Plenty of free resources that you can start implementing them today. And just because they're free, it's not that they're not valuable. You're going to find that you can actually make incredible changes to your fundraising abilities by just utilizing them. And we do a lot of webinars. We just jump on calls. So find me on LinkedIn or on my website, and happy to get to know you, your organization. And thank you for everybody who listens to your podcast.
Thank you so much, Mario.
Thank you again, Jack. Really enjoyed it.